Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm going to give a few minutes so people can join. Hello, everyone. Oh, wait, there you go. I'm good. Hello, thanks for the answer. You already know how that works. I mean, if you weren't here yesterday, feel free to drop on the chat that today is your first day, and I hope you managed to watch the recording. And we're gonna continue today. And if you were not here yesterday, drop on the chat also where you were joining from. And I did saw some of not some, all of the projects that you've posted on Slack. I took a look and I'm quite proud of you. Well done. You already started your first website. That's exciting. And if you want to really write things about yourself and about your city, I would very much appreciate, because I do read them, and I like to discover new things about new places and put on my list of the places to go, the places to visit. So that would be super nice. Quick question. Let's let people join more. Do you know about the Slack channel? We share the invitation link again with you. Let me actually show you where it is. So here in the Code Up community Slack channel, the 3-day coding challenge. Yes, that's perfect, Bianca, this one. So there's this channel. The invite that we send to you today again automatically adds you to this channel. But if for any reason you cannot find it, you can come here into channels and then may browse. You can browse channels. You go to the plus here. You can browse the channels, and then you search for 3-day coding challenge, and join this workspace. So here you can post your projects and everything, and we're gonna take a look. The other channel that is super important, like it's nice for you to know, it's the tech support. If you take a look here, you can always post things if you're stuck or if you need some advice. It can be related to this workshop, or it can be related to something else if you continue to work on. So this is a space for the Code Up community to ask questions and get some support. So yeah, keep them coming, post your progress here on Slack. That's really nice to see. And you can post every day once you finish. So the day 1, and then post your progress on the day 2, and then your final project after day 3. So we can take a look. HTML and CSS question. Do you use wireframe before you start build the project? I mean, what kind of wireframes and to what? I mean, you can have some like templates or things like this. Yes, even in CodePen, you can start with some templates. Or like a structure, you mean? Do you put containers around all of the sections? Do you prefer grid or Flexbox? Okay, one at a time. Answering the CSS questions. I do put a container around all of my sections. Yes, I do. Do I prefer grid or Flexbox? Flexbox. However, this is a bit tricky. I use grid more, but I'm going to use grid from Bootstrap, which is the thing that we're going to learn tomorrow, because I think it's a lot easier to handle. And in terms of making things fast, I use grid for design the template. So this should go to the left, this should go to the right, and so on. And then Flexbox, I use to organize the icons and make some things a bit more responsive. And what Flexbox is, it's something about CSS that I'm gonna talk about today. So stay tuned. Cool. So those are very specific CSS questions. And as for the container, just to explain a bit more, I do put a container in every single section because I'm going to need to organize things. So yes, I always start the section with a container. And that's it. I think I answered them all. It's alive. I'm done. Okay, so let's do let's just take a quick look on what we're going to cover today. I'm going to do a quick recap from last class. And then today it's all about CSS. So what CSS is, I'm going to give some examples, and obviously, just like yesterday, we're going to have some hands-on, we're going to do some code, and I will answer things like, what is Flexbox? So just so we can take a look. There you go. This is the project that we've built yesterday. Okay, so yesterday we learned about HTML, which is the core thing of any website. It's what is responsible for all the content in any websites that you see. All of the websites that you see are built with HTML. We learn about the tags, we learn about the syntax, how to use the syntax, we learn about attributes, for example, the class, or for example, the href, which is an attribute of the A tag, or the src, that it's an attribute of the img. We talked about how, like, some of the best practices, like naming conventions, like this, about indentation, and you built 3 different sections: the navigation bar, the introduction section, and the about me section. If there's any questions related to HTML, please let me know. So today it's all about CSS, so let's talk CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, and a style sheet, it's a file or a form used to define the overall look of a markup language file. And remember, just to remember, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So basically, someone told me yesterday at the end, someone said, so basically CSS, it's the makeup for HTML, and yes, it is. So we're going to use a file, we're going to use some instructions to define the look of a website, of a markup language file, or a HTML file, or our website. How do I center things? Yesterday, I briefly showed you one single thing about CSS, using one property to center my About Me section. I can review this, but I'm going to go over the CSS syntax first because I didn't explain that yesterday. I just showed you one of the things that you could do. So I will do this in a bit, Alicia. And then when I'm back to the CodePen, I'll go through the code that I added on CSS yesterday that centralized the things. Okay, so that's basically it. CSS, it's a language that describes the visual appearance of HTML elements. And the meaning of markup language, it means that it's a language of mark. We're going to add some marks in the page, a paragraph, an image, or something. It's not a programming language. It's not a script that you're going to run. You're just going to add things, content to the screen. This is HTML. So it's a hypertext because it's not only text, like image, audios, and so on. Here we have some useful links. I'm going to share them all. I copy this link, open link, copy link address. Let me share them all here with you. We can also share the slides with you, I guess, afterwards. And copy link address. Here you have some cheat sheet. And here you have some NDN CSS selectors. I'm going to talk about them all. But to begin with, I want to talk about this CSS intro section, which is this one here. And this is brilliant. W3 School, it's an amazing resource font that you can see about everything. If you take a look here in this navigation bar at the top, you have resources about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, a lot of programming languages, or even database like MySQL and so on. So this is really nice. W3 School, it's a really nice place that you can search for things, you can learn new things, they even have a playground when you search for a concept and you can take a look. So this is the CSS introduction page, and then you have some explanations. And this is what I want to show you. This is like one HTML file with different styles. I've mentioned yesterday, I think, that CSS, it's an extremely powerful tool, and it is. It's amazing the amount of things that you can do with CSS. So just so you can understand how the amount of impact that CSS has in a page, here you have the same HTML. So please pay attention to the sections. You have this welcome to my homepage section, and then you have this sidebar here in blue on the right side, and then you have some text, same page with different style sheets. And then you have those links here that you can click to change. So this HTML page was styled with some CSS properties and so on. So this is the style sheet one. I'm going to keep the same HTML, but with a different style. And it's completely different. It doesn't even look like the same page. But if you take a look at the content, it is the same. Welcome to my homepage. Use the menu to select different style sheets. All the links that I can click on the buttons. Same page, different styles. I don't have, so the position changed, the font changed, the color of the font, the background, everything changes. The placement of each section changes. And this is all CSS. This is yet a different one. So completely different. It's all, there's no sidebar anymore. You have different buttons, you have different everything. So the buttons are here on the top and so on. You can also create something like a dark mode. And you can see now you have a sidebar here at the top on the right, and the links are also in the same level, but on the left. And the title, it's just until here, it's not taking the full width of the page and so on. So you can have an idea of how many things you can control with CSS. And this is just a tiny bit of it. And finally, this is how the page looks like with no CSS. This is just HTML, which is, it's very like early 20s website vibes. But yeah, it doesn't look good. I mean, all the content is here. So you can see, welcome to my homepage. This is a list of things that you can see. And the links here that you can click. So it just it doesn't look nice. So this is just so you can have an idea. Here on the left, on the sidebar, you have a lot of CSS properties that you can take a look. I'm going to talk about some of them. The second link that I shared with you is this, no, wrong one, is this one here. This is a cheat sheet. So you have some videos, color picker, you have a lot of things that you can take a look. So also a nice resource. And finally, there's another website apart from W3 School that I quite like, which is the MDN, the developer Mozilla, that has a lot of nice things as well about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and so on. And you can read here this explanation about the selectors is quite nice. So you can use this. I'm going to explain first so you can understand what that is, but you can use this in the future to learn more things and so on. Well, wait, here. So remember that yesterday I said that whenever you're coding something, you need to follow some syntax. And yesterday we learned the syntax for HTML, which is we always use the angle brackets. We have the opening tag and the closing tag for most of the tags. The closing tag has a / before the tag name, and we need to follow these rules. If you're going to add an attribute, we need to add an attribute that exists, equal sign, and then quotes. So these are HTML rules. The way to write CSS, it's like this. You have something that is called the selector, which is how we're going to select an HTML element, because if the purpose of the CSS is to style HTML elements, we need to be able to select that specific element that we want to style. So we have one selector. After the selector, we're going to open the curly braces. It needs to be the curly braces. And then all the style that we want to add to this selected element will go inside of these two curly braces. Then we're gonna have the properties and the values. This is always gonna be also what we call pairs of keys and values. We always have the name of the property, for example, font size or the color. Column, this is very, very, very important. You need to use the column. After the column, you have the value that you want to give to that property. And then you finish this property with the value with a semicolon. So this is super important. The name of the property, column, the value, semicolon. So in this example, we are applying to this element here a font size of 26 pixels and a color blue. And color, it is English sensitive. You cannot write with a U. Color means the color of the text. So we're saying that this paragraph is it's gonna have 26 pixels in the font size, and the color will be blue. Now, the selectors are used to, like I said, target the HTML that we want, elements that we want to style, and we have 3 options. I mean, we have a bit more, but I'm gonna cover the most used and most important selectors that we need to know, because we can cascade our selection. This is a bit more advanced. I'm not going to cover. I'm going to start with the most used, and to be honest, the ones that you need to begin with. And even for more advanced, you can do everything with those 3 that I'm going to teach you. The first one that we can use is just the HTML element, the name of the tag, really, just like we have here. We have a P tag in HTML, so we can just select the P. You are using the name of the HTML tag, which is quite handy. But, there's always a but. If it's too easy, there's a but. Bear in mind that if you use this, you are selecting all of the paragraphs in this example in your file. So you are selecting all of the elements with that tag in your file. So if you say that the color will be blue, if you select based on the P tag and say the color will be blue, all of your paragraphs will be blue. Now, the second thing, and the most used one, by far the most used one, is using the class as the selector. And yesterday I was like going crazy adding classes to all of my containers. And that's why. Because this is the one that we're going to use the most. Whenever you have an attribute in your HTML element, like you have a class with the value, you can use this as the selector in CSS. So remember that yesterday in the examples in the slides, we had a paragraph, apple, orange, and they had a class called fruits. So imagine that you had this and you add a class with the value fruits in the HTML element. In CSS, this is how you're going to write. If it's a class, you're going to use a dot, a period. That's it. So dot, and then the name that you gave to the class. So if the class has the value of fruits, you're going to do dot fruits. And this will go through to the HTML document and say, hey, apply this styles to the elements that holds the class fruit. So if it's a class, you're going to use a dot. And to all of them, after the selector, you're going to use the curly braces. The syntax after the selector is the same to all of them. You use the selector and then the curly braces. Either the name of the tag, or if it's a class, you're going to use a dot and the name of the class that you gave. Or if it's an ID, like yesterday we had an element with the ID favorite, you're going to use a hash and then the name of the ID that you gave. So hash for IDs, dot for class, and to both of them, you're just going to pass the value that you created. So here's it's a bit easier to understand. In the HTML, we're going to have a paragraph with the class fruits. So class equal quotes fruits. So this element has a class fruits. In your CSS, you're gonna target this specific paragraph based on the class. And if it's based on the class, you're gonna use a dot. And the value of the class that you gave, it's fruits. So it's gonna be, the selector is gonna be dot fruits. Then you're gonna open your curly braces and pass the styles that you want. In this example, we want to change the color property and we want to give a value of red. We want the color of the element with the class fruits to be red. This would be the final result. You would have this specific paragraph with the color red. Now, yesterday we also talked about the containers in HTML. So we can give a class to the elements inside, or we can give it a class to the container itself. And here we have a different way of targeting things. We're also going to use the fruits. So when I said dot fruits and apply the styles of the font size of 26 pixels and the color red, means all the elements that has a class, because I'm using a dot here, fruits will have a font size of 26 pixels and the text color will be red. That means that both orange and apple will have those properties, those styles being applied to. Now, if I want to style the peach, I would use a hash. So the peach has an ID. So I'm going to use hash and then the favorite, because this is the value that I passed here, curly braces, and the pairs of properties and values that I want. So for the peach, I want to change the background color property and I want it to be yellow. And I want the text color to be blue. So this would be our final result. So both apple and orange will have the font size of 26 pixels and the text color red, and just peach would have the background color yellow and the color of the text blue. Does that make sense? Let me know if I lose you at some point. I mean, we can, let's start coding, that maybe the questions will come. Are the name of the properties already defined, or is that something we defined? Good question. No, it's already defined, and there are so many of them. You can Google, and you can see some of them here. For example, you go to the margin, padding, for example, or backgrounds, background colors. You're gonna see. This is the syntax, it's a bit different. I will explain you in a bit. But no, you cannot choose. You need to use the properties that already exist. And some of them also have some specific values. For example, this one that I used, the text align. Let me show you. Text align CSS. These are the values that you can pass to the text align. So the text align will accept start, end, center, or justify. So some of them you can pass the value that you wanted. You're going to see today, for example, the size of it, the width or the height. Maybe you can decide how many pixels you want, and you're free to choose. But you also need to follow the rules of what it's the specific amount of things that you can pass. And we're gonna do some examples, and maybe this will be a bit clear. When you put the dot in front of the selector, it will include all of them. When I put the dot in front of the selector, it will include all the elements with that class. So for example, if I do dot intro, if I have 3 elements with a class called intro, this will be applied to all of them. So the dot means I'm going to select based on a class, and every element that has this class that I'm going to write the name will have those styles being applied to. When would you use ID and when would you use classes? Most of the time, being completely honest, most of the times you're going to use class. You're just gonna use ID when you need something very specific. For example, what we did yesterday with the link, that I want to use the link to take you to a specific section. In this case, I don't want to mess with the link and the navigation, so I would use an ID. Lost connection, missed the past 5 minutes. Well, I'm just gonna ask you, I was just answering questions. I haven't started coded the CSS yet, so you're good. What is box model? Box model. Box model, it's how CSS work. Basically, imagine this. Imagine a box around this. Okay, so it's CSS and CSS. So it's basically this idea that you have a box and then you have the layers in this box. So this is the structure of HTML and CSS. So if you consider the box being the wrapper of that element, you're going to have the content here. And then in CSS, you have two other things. You have the inner space, which is the padding. You have the border that you can draw something, and you have the outer space, which is a margin. This is too theoretical for now. I'm going to do an example, and then at the end of the class, after I do the example, ask me this again if it's not clear. Because if I get too much on the theory, I think it might be a bit confusing. What are reset styles? Reset styles. I don't know, maybe it's to remove some default styles from HTML, which it's also something that I'm going to talk today. Reset CSS. And that's basically it. You have some frameworks like Tailwind and so on. They're just going to remove any default CSS that you might have for some reason and start from scratch, so you can choose and design your own. Can an element have an ID in a class? Yes, I actually have this here. My element has an ID in a class. There's absolutely no problem. Okay, this is done. This is done. Cool. Let's start doing some CSS, and maybe some of the things will be a bit more clear, and then other questions will come up. So you already know how it goes. Ask as we go, and I will answer in the meantime. There's just one thing that I want to change here, and I want to review with you. So here I have my navigation bar. Here I have my introduction section and the about me. In my introduction section, I have this welcome to Belo Horizonte, and I have this image. This is the thing that I want to change. I actually want to use this image in my about me section because I'm going to use an image of my city in the introduction section. So all that I'm going to do is to remove this image from here. And I use Command X or Control X, and I'm going to paste it with Command V or Control V in my About Me section. That's the only difference, okay? That's it. The only thing that I'm going to do. Done. Okay. I'm not going to touch the HTML just yet. I'm going to start styling this About Me section. This is the first section that I want to style. Yesterday, I showed you this. I'm gonna remove and start everything in the About Me like from scratch. Everything in the CSS from scratch. But I will explain the how to centralize, and I'm gonna do the same thing for this one here. So the About Me, I could use either the class or the ID. It's entirely up to you. Which one do you want to use? The first thing that I'm gonna I'm gonna use the class about-me. Leave the ID just for the link. I think it's what you're gonna see the most, and then the curly braces. So again, in this case, let me make this maybe like this. No. In this case, I have this container with the class about me, the entire container. Inside of the container, I have the image, the H1, the H2, and the paragraph. I'm selecting the element with the class about me. So if it's a class, I'm going to use a dot. And the name of the class, it's about, the name of the class is about me. So I'm going to write about me. The syntax needs to be the same. If it's a dash, you need to use a dash. So about dash me needs to be exactly the same. And then you open the curly braces. Inside of these curly braces, I'm gonna add the things that I want to. So let's say that I'm gonna centralize this. There is one property in CSS called text align, which is the same one that I showed you yesterday. So I'm gonna give the name of the property, column, and then the value, center, semicolon. This will centralize everything inside of my container with one single comment. That's why it's so useful to have containers in the sections. If I want this entire section to be centralized, this is what I'm gonna do. And the other thing that I want to do, can you see that this is super close to each other? I'd like to give some space so it can breathe a bit. And in CSS, like someone raised the question about the box model. If you think about this container here being the element, the entire container, there are a few extra spaces things that we could do. We can add some inner space, like space inside of this box that wraps this container. We can use the border, which is literally just create a border in this container, or we can add some space outside of the container. And in my case, I want to add some space inside of the container. So I have some space here on the sides and also here at the top. I think I have it. Now I have box model. Oh, no, it wasn't here. Model CSS. This that I want to show you. There you go. Ah, no, I just want the image. I have it here, maybe. Yeah, this. So this is my content. Imagine that this is my content. And I can add some space inside. Actually, it would be here. This. Imagine that this red, it's my content. This, I don't know, light red, it's still considered the element, so it's inside, but this is what we call padding. And both margin, padding, and border, you can decide where do you want to add. If you want to add to the top and the bottom, or just the top, or just the bottom, just the left, or just the right, you can specifically say, I want some space inside of the element on the left, or on the right, or just at the top. You can be very specific and write padding left, padding top, margin right, and so on. And when you don't do this, for example, I just write padding, which is the inner space, it will be applied the same value to all of the 4 sides. So if I say that I want to add a padding of 70 pixels, it will add 70 pixels at the top, at the left, the right, and the bottom. So you can see that I have a bit more space inside of it. It's a bit hard to see the difference between margin and padding, but as we go, it might be a bit clear. So this is the thing that I wanted to do in the about me. And the second thing is that I think this image is way too big. And the main purpose of my page is actually to talk about my city, not exactly about myself. So I'm going to make this image a bit smaller. To make this image smaller, I have a few options. I could add a class to this image. I could add an ID to this image. I could, since this is the only image that I have, I could also just select the image tag and do this. But I don't know, maybe I want to add more images to my project after that. So I don't think this is the best approach. So there's also a different thing that you could do. It's a different way of selecting things, a bit more advanced, but it's quite nice. And this is what we call cascading. I could say, hey, please select me the element with the class. Remember that what comes before the curly bracelet is just the selector. This is just a way to select the HTML element that you want to style. So I can say, hey, get me the element with the class about-me. The element with the class about-me, it's the entire div. And inside of this div, we have the IMG, H1, 2, and P. And then I can say, from this element, please select the IMG that is there. So there are a few ways of reading this. You can also say, please select the IMG tag that it's a child or that it's inside it's the content of the element with the class about me. So we can nest things like this. And if you take a look, there is only one image IMG tag that it's inside, it's the content of the element with the class about me. So we can also use this syntax. I'm doing this just to show you a different way. If it's a bit confusing and you want to begin with just adding a class to the IMG tag, it's completely fine. And this is going to work for me. I have a square image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the border radius, which is another property to define the radius that you want for the border. And if I do, I don't know, just to show you, 15 pixels, it will make the rounds a bit more rounded, you see? So you could do this, so you can have this a bit like less sharp edges. But in my case, I'm gonna add 50% because this will make it a circle. Because it will take 50% here, 50% here, here, and here, and this will make a perfect circle because I have a squared image. If your image is not square, maybe this is not the value that you are looking for. Cool. This is nice. And maybe, let me think, maybe I want to change also something. Still looks a bit big to me. How can you choose only one corner? To choose only one corner, you would need to use the border. You need to work with the border, not with the radius of them all, just individual border, because the border you can also write, you can also select. You would need to work maybe with two elements. Let me think. Round one side border of image CSS. Just one. I mean, I don't know by heart. I would need to test a few things. Bottom, left, right. Can you do this? Ah, there you go, you can. So you can try this. I never use this. So there are a lot of properties in CSS that either you use, it's been a while ago and you forget, so you would Google to know what it's the name of the property, because obviously you don't remember them all by heart, or you're gonna use them in a specific way. For example, I never had to use border bottom left radius. I had to do this, I have to use for one side of the image, like top and bottom, and I would use a different strategies because it was two different elements. So that changes. So here is one way that you could use. And it's always just Google the result that you want, and then you're going to be able to see what are the properties or with the values that you need to add. Okay. What else I want to do here? Let me think. Maybe I'm just going to make this image a bit smaller. This is what I was saying, right? I want to make this a tiny bit smaller. So I'm just going to change the width. And this is my personal nightmare. As a non-native English speaker, I always swap the T and the H, always. And this don't crash your code, but it doesn't work, obviously. So yeah, I'm going to set the width of my image to be 30% of its actual value. Maybe less, 20. That sounds better. I mean, I'm happy with it. I'm gonna leave it like this. I guess for the about me, it's already nice. What I want to work the most with you, it's this introduction section today. And I want to show you a different way to add an image. This time I want to use CSS to add the image. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a comment here about me. Every language, every time you're coding, there is a way to ignore the code. Can you see that this line of code is being grayed out? This is not being considered by the computer. This is just for human readability. And in HTML, the code reads from top to bottom, but in CSS, no. So I can continue doing the intro section after the about me. It's completely fine. I'm just going to add this comment. So first, when I share my code with you, if you want to see the specific moment where I talk about the intro or where I'm styling the intro section, you can just use the comment as a reference. Remember that I said that we also write code for humans. That's the proof of it. Okay, whoops, intro. Okay, let's style the introduction section. The first thing that I'm going to do is I need to select that section. So I do have a class called intro. So this is the first thing that I want to select. And if it's a class, again, I'm going to use a dot. Very first thing. If the name of the class is intro, I'm going to do dot intro and then open the curly braces. That's the second thing. So what I want to do is to make this section a bit bigger, so I have more space, and I want to add an image to it. So the very first property that I want to change, it's the height. Height. Yeah, that's right. I want to change the height of my section, and I want to make this maybe 800 pixels. That's very big. I mean, that's fine. I have 800 pixels. So everything that was below this intro section was pushed 800 pixels down. And this is actually, now I can show you the about me working. If I click the about me, it takes you to the about me section, okay? So fine, first thing that I'm doing is just making room for my introduction section. And the second thing that I'd like to do, I'd like to add a nice picture of Belo Horizonte, my city, here in the background. But this time is different. I just want to be in the background. I don't want to be the same thing as I have in my profile in the About Me section, which is an image at the, standing in the same level of my text. I want to be on the back. So yesterday we learned how to add images with HTML. Today I'm going to show you how to do this with CSS. Because yes, CSS can also do this. The way of writing it is here. We can add background images with CSS. So you're going to go to your container. Where do you want to add this image? And we're going to work with a property called background dash image, colon. Always remember, colon, semicolon, colon, semicolon. So we're saying, hey, CSS, can you please add the background image for me, please, here? And CSS is going to say, yes, of course. Where is the image? And the syntax, we're not going to use source. The syntax is different. To pass the source of the image, you're going to use the URL and then parentheses, just the regular brackets. And then inside of these brackets, you're going to paste your URL. So I do have an image of my city here. I chose it carefully to you. There you go. And this is my image. The moment you paste the URL here, it will render the image on the back. So you can see that my text now, it's at the top of my image. My image, it's in the background. So that's how easy it is. And there you go. I have some problems with the image. I'm going to fix them with a lot of things, actually. I will change this in a second. The other thing that I want to show you, this image, it's a bit big for my container. So I want to make it fit into my container first. So I'm gonna use some property that it's called background dash size. And my image is gone. Can someone explain me what's going on? What do you think I'm doing wrong? Debugging time. Semicolon, exactly. That was fast. Good eyes. Oops. I don't have a semicolon here. So there are certain things that you can see. Every code editor or even CodePen, we have these different colors to write the code. And those colors, they mean something. They are telling you something, right? Can you see that all of my properties has this purple-ish color here? And I was start writing a new property and it's taking this yellow color, which is not a color of the properties. So basically what's going on here is that CSS, it's understanding that this background size column, it's still part of the value that I'm passing to the background image. So remember, we have the property, colon, value, semicolon. Until I add the semicolon, CSS understands that anything that I'm typing, even if it's in the following line, it's the value. So the statement hasn't finished. The moment I add the semicolon, oh God. The moment I add the semicolon, my image is back and you can see that it's painted in this purple color again. So CSS understands that the statement is over and I'm starting to write something new. The second hint is that it added some indentation, as if this thing that I'm typing here, it still belongs to this one. So this one is not going to fix on its own, so I'm going to change it. And I'm going to set the background size to cover my container. So this will fit it a bit better so I can see the image. Ta-da! This is from my city. Okay, a bit better. This is one of the things that we need to do. In my case, my image was a bit too big. If your image is too small and you set the background size to cover your container, it will duplicate your image over and over until it fills the space that you have. If that's the case, this is not my case, but if it's yours, I'm gonna just show you how to fix. There is one property called background repeat. I'm going to set to no dash repeat. You can also do this, okay? It's not my case. It's not doing anything for me, but that's fine. I also would like to fix the image. So you see that I scroll, it all goes together. But yesterday I showed you the final result and we had the fixed image and then I was scrolling and the other things were scrolling on the top of my image, but the image was fixed in the background. So I also want to add this. I'm gonna add another property that is also to the background. So background, and then it's background attachment. And then I can set this also background attachment, colon, fixed, semicolon. And then when you fix this, everything will scroll, but the image stays there until you move on to the other, past the 800 pixels. Sorry, what is no repeat? I'm missing. So the no repeat, in my case, my image was too big for my container. So when I do the cover, it will fit my image in my container. If your image is too small and you use this property cover, it will duplicate, it will repeat your image over and over to fill the space of the container. It's not my case, but if for some reason that happens to you, you just use the background repeat, no repeat. For me, it's actually doing nothing. This is just so you can have it as a reference if for some reason your image is different. And by the way, if you are coding along with me, I'm gonna share my URL. You can replace it afterwards and find a nice image of your city. But if you want just for now, you can use one. Okay, what else? I think that's fine. I mean, tons of problems, but for now, that's fine. I want to take care of a few things before. There's one thing that it's really, really, really bothering me, that it's this margin here. This is an outer space. Maybe now it's going to be easier to understand inner space and outer space. This is like the margin, it's outside of the container. Can you see this on the left? There's in the top as well. Here at the top and here. This is some default styling. I mean, HTML doesn't do much. Can we add an image not as a background with CSS? No. It will. The only property that they have is background image. And then you would add the regular with HTML, and then you can style it. You can change the position with CSS. For example, you can make a HTML element go behind or on top of the other. You can do all this with CSS, but you would add the image on HTML, and you would control a property called z-index on CSS for that specific image that you want to manipulate. HTML, like I was saying, has some minimal, very, very, very minimal styles. For example, if I haven't touched this, but if I use H1 or H2 or P, you can see that the style changes a bit. And then there's also some default margin, very small things when you start a new HTML document. So it's very, very common to see. That's the only, I'm going to add here at the top. Like I explained, you don't need to do this. But I'm just going to do this because if you take a look at CSS files, you might see the same line of code at the very beginning. You can see a selector that is the star. The star means select everything, all the content, add this to everything. So select everything and then curly, this is the one selector and then the curly braces. And I'm going to set the margin of everything to be 0. And when I do this default margin, this is one of the ways to reset. Someone asked me about reset styles. This is one of the things that we remove. Like if you have a framework that resets the styles like Tailwind or things like this for you, it will do this behind the scene. It will remove these default styles that HTML has. Or for example, these default colors of the links. This is some default style. This would all be removed. For now, I'm just gonna remove the margin, and then we can control the margin of each one of our sections. So I remove the margin of the document, but I added some space here to the about me. I still have the space. So this is better. You remove the default one, and then you work with the exact amount of margin or padding that you want for that specific section or that specific element. It doesn't matter if I would add this at here, it would make the same result. Doesn't really, we don't care. But you can, I'm just gonna leave it here because it's more common to see. Okay, so now I fixed one of the things that was really bothering me. Now the second thing that I want to fix, it's this text, because obviously it's too small. It's at the very top. I would like to leave it in the middle, like here, and with a background of like how do you call it? Like a banner, you know, like a background bit black, transparent behind the text. Like I forgot the word for this. Okay, let's stick to banner. Okay, in the lack of a better word, if someone remembers, please tell me. So I'm gonna style this H1 here and do things to it. But I have one problem. My problem is that I'm already using this container intro, and I don't want to, I want to use a container for this H1 as well. So instead of just styling just this element, I'm gonna add the container because if I want to add more things to it, I want to change the color of the container, not just the color of the H1. And maybe I want to add a bit more things inside of this title. So I'm gonna wrap this title in yet another container so I can manipulate. So I'm going to create yet another div here, and I'm going to close after my H1. So angle brackets div, angle bracket /div, and I'm going to give it a class. There will be, so class equal quotes, sorry. This will be my intro title section. Something like this. So now I can target this specific container, this one here, because for this main one, I'm already adding the image and things like this, so I cannot move it around because I actually want to be fixed. So that's why I create a new one. And for this one, I'm going to do a few things. So let's first target this intro title. I'm using a class, so I'm going to do dot intro dash title semicolon. You asked me how to centralize the things before. We already did for the about me, so I'm going to just use the same property. I'm going to do text align and give the value of center. So text align colon center semicolon, and this will centralize my text horizontally. It's not centralizing it vertically yet, but we're going to get there. Let me think. The second thing, I'm going to add this banner on the back, just so you can see it. So it will be black, and then the color of the text will be white. So I'm going to change the color of the text, and to change the text color, the property is color. And I'm going to set the value to white, semicolon, so you can see it here. And then I'm going to add this background color to be black. So background dash color, the same thing that we saw on the slides. I could do like this, black, but this, it's ugly. That's not nice. That's not cool. This is not what I want. There are certain ways of adding colors to CSS. So I'm just going to go here to, there you go, CSS colors. And here you can see actually the border colors. This is not what I want to do. To add colors in CSS, you have a few options, okay? What I've been using so far is just using the color name, like white or black. And you have like 140 color names that you could use for this. Tomato, gray, Dodger blue. You could use all of those. You can use HSL, which is the combination of hue, saturation, and lightness. So the way of writing it, you do the color, and then you pass HSL, and then in between the parentheses, you're gonna pass the value for each one of them, hue, saturation, and lightness. Obviously, you don't need to know this by heart. There are thousands of generators that you just select the color and it will give you the value. And it's the same thing for hex. But hex, it's a combination of red, green, and blue. So you're going to use a hash and a combination of numbers and letters, 6 of them. And each of the values represent one color, like red, green, and blue. And changing the combination and the amount of each one of them will give you a different color. And this is the hex color that you need to pass. So you just write hash and then the value of the color. Again, 1,000 hex color generators out there. And then the other way, that is the one that I want to use right now, it's the RGB. Same thing as the hex. It also has a value for the red, the green, and the blue. So the way of writing it, it's RGB, and then in between the parentheses, you pass the values of each one. And if you pass 255 for all of them, it's white. If you pass 0 to all of them, is black. Again, you don't need to know this by heart, okay? But you can have like this, each amount. But the reason why I want to use RGB, it's because you can also use something called alpha. So you can pass RGBA and use this alpha value. And the alpha parameter, it's just something that you pass, it's a number between 0 and 1, where 0 it's fully transparent and 1 it's not transparent at all. So basically, you control the opacity of your color, so you can see through the color or not. So in my case, I want like I want to see through the black. So the black, it's all 0. There you go. But then I could have some transparency. If I put 1, it's the same thing that I have right now, and I don't like it. If I put 0, I can see through completely, also not what I want. So maybe something like this. This should be nice. I'm gonna copy this. So 0, 0, 0, and 0.4. And I'm gonna paste, instead of saying that this is going to be black, I'm gonna paste this RGB color. And now you can see that you can see through the color. You can see through it. Now, still more things to fix. The first one, I also want to fix vertically. Give me a second. But I feel that there's very little space for the text to breathe inside of this container. I feel that this container needs more space. And this space, it's to be added inside of the container. So if it's a space being added inside, it's padding. So I'm gonna add some padding to this container, maybe 80 pixels. And now my text can breathe a bit more. It's too small, but this is one thing important that to trust the process as well. Sometimes you're gonna fix one thing and then immediately you want to fix the other. Go one thing at a time, okay? Let me see. Let's change then this font size. Font size 35 pixels. This is screaming, welcome to my city, welcome to Belo Horizonte, maybe a bit smaller. That's better. There you go. So let's handle one thing at a time as they come. Now the font size, it's a bit better. The other thing that I want to change, I don't know. It's still, I don't know. Let's leave it like this. But I think that's something that I'm still not happy about it. I will change this in a bit. Let's centralize, and then maybe I will realize what I'm missing. So I want to move this container down, so it's in the middle of my image, right? So maybe like around here. So the way of doing this, it's adding some space at the top. But now I do have a few things that I need to think. Where do I want to add this space? How do I add this space? Because let me show you something. If I add some margin at the top of this intro title container, let's say it's 200 pixels. This is gonna add right away on the top of this one here. So that's not quite what I want. If I do padding top, because I know I need some space, if I do padding top, this is the inner space. So also not what I want. So actually what I want, it's some inner space, but in the outside container, in this one here. I want at the top of the inner space to be clear, to be nothing there. And if I do this, everything that comes after that will be pushed down. So if I add some padding top here, it will push my other container down, because this element here with the intro class needs to have a clear space at the top of 200 pixels, which is a bit too little. I'm gonna make this maybe 300. Yeah, something like this. So then I can also centralize my element vertically and horizontally. And there's still something that I don't like about this, the text. So I want to change the font. Maybe I want to make this font bold. So I can select this H1 here from the intro title. So I'm going to do the same thing that we did with the image before. So I'm going to do intro. You can use either intro or intro title. In this case, both of them would work. And then the H1. And there is another property for the font. If you want to change the font, the actual font, you can change the font family. And then you can Google and see what are the font families that you can use in CSS. So I'm going to change the font weight. And I want to make this bold. That's a bit better. And just so you can see it, if I just use intro, it would also work. It doesn't matter, because at the end, I only have one H1 inside of the intro title and inside of the title. Up to you. I'm going to leave the title here just for consistency. And that's it. So now I do think it looks quite nice. I mean, my banner, when I scroll, it goes up. For my image, it's fixed. I have a nice about me section here with some space here at the top, so it's not super close to the end of my image. I mean, there's room for our elements to breathe in our page. So the last thing that we need to fix is this navigation bar. So let's style the nav bar. I call it navbar, and it's a class. So let's create first a comment. Oops. Navbar. So this is the comment. Everything that it's in, if I do / ***, everything that's in the middle, it will be ignored. So for my navbar, the first thing is that I want to change this color. So maybe something similar to the first thing is that I need to select. So my selector is the class, so .navbar, curly braces, and I'm going to change the background color. So it's something maybe close to this. So I'm going to change the background color to be this. But maybe a bit darker, so 0.5. No, 0.5. I think that's fine. I mean, it's kind of the same color. That's the first thing. And the second thing that I want to handle is that, can you see that all the links are super close to the left? And I would like to spread those links through the space that I have and make it, I mean, to breathe a bit more. I've been trying to code along like yesterday, but nothing I'm doing is taking effect. You can, if you want to stop and pay attention, and you can post it on tech support and try to see what's going on. Or at the end, if we do have the time, I can take a look at it. But maybe posting it on the tech support, we can open the code and I can tell you more specifically where is the issue. So where exactly things started to crash. No worries. That's why the tech support is for. Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to give some space. Let's say padding 10 pixels, so it can breathe a bit better. And I want to spread this. Now, there is one thing in CSS that someone asked me earlier today, called CSS Flexbox. Flexbox is brilliant. Flexbox, it's so nice. I'm going to share this link here with you. There you go. Flexbox, it's something that you can use in CSS that make the container flexible. That's basically it. You can transform this container in a flexible container. And once you do this, the idea is that you can have responsive designs. The main goal of Flexbox is the default behavior is to take the minimum space possible for each one of the items. And when you use Flexbox, you can control the properties of the container. So the container is flexible and you can control all the many different properties, and you can control properties of the items, the flex items. So the items inside of the container, you can also control them. I'm not going to cover the items today. I'm going to focus on the container, which is the most used one as well. So a few things that you can control for the container. You can control the direction that the elements will go. So if we go from like in a row from left to right or right to left, or if they're going to be displayed in a column from top to bottom or bottom to top, all of this you can control. You can control if the moment you fill the space that you have, you're going to create another line, or you're just going to shrink the elements to fit. You can control the extra space in the container. For example, you can say that all your elements were going to be placed in the start of the container or the end, or you want to centralize, or you want to spread your elements evenly throughout the container, which is precisely what I want to do with our navbar. So this is what I want to do. Use this justify content space and use the space evenly value. So to do this, every time you want to use Flexbox, the very first thing that you need to do is to transform your container in a flexible container. And to do this, you need to pass the display property you need to say that this is going to be flex. So it's a flexible container. And as you can see, it's all very close together, not at here because I have a padding, but there's no more space between the links. And the second thing that I want to do is to use the justify content, which controls the elements horizontally. And I want to ask them to take the space evenly. And just with this command, I have all my links spread evenly throughout my navbar, which I think it's great. It's like super fast, super easy to solve. And then finally, the last thing that I want to change, it's obviously these links here because they look horrible. I really dislike the default design that they have. So to make this easier and faster, because those are the only links that I have, I'm just going to select them by the HTML tag. And I have a homework to do, or you can think of how can I still use the A, but be more specific. For example, I just want the links, the A links that are in my navigation bar. How could I write this selector? If you know, just paste it on the chat. What I want to do for those links, the first thing is change the color. So I'm going to set the color of them to be white because I really don't like them. Yep, a bit better. And I don't like this underline that it's also default from HTML. And this is just a text decoration. Navbar A. Well done. Great. Exactly. So this would be more specific, and this would be applied just to my links in my navbar. Well done. This underline is just a text decoration. So there is a property called text decoration, and I can set it to none. So no text decoration, and then this is gone. It still works, as you can see. I have this that you can know BH, all this. And maybe I want to make the font size slightly bigger. Font size, let's say 18 pixels. Semicolon. There you go. And just because you stayed here all this time with me, I mean, to be honest, I don't think I like this grayish color. Give me a second. Black. What do you prefer? All black or like this? Option 1, it's all black. Option 2 is this. Maybe I like this one. I mean, we could find a gray color, like nice, but I'm not going to do this now. So maybe you can find a better color for yours. The gray one, cool, me too, the dark gray one. So maybe you can find a hex color that you don't need to use the opacity to control this. And you can even choose a nicer gray, because maybe there are better options. So because you stay here with me up until now, I'm just gonna teach you something super fast. And it's actually super cool, I like it, is that one thing that it's called pseudo classes. So you only add these classes when you do some action. So for example, I can say that for the A elements, I want to change something when you hover over these elements. And let's say that I want to change the color of these elements. I want to be, I'm gonna need a color, a decent color. I don't know, gray. No. This. I don't know, it's gonna be this weird green, okay? You can think about design better than me in a bit. Well, I want to say that whenever you hover over this, maybe this should be blue because it resembles better my page. So blue, like this. This blue. When you hover over the A elements, I want the color to go from white to this blue. And now if you hover, it's a really bad choice, horrible choice. It needs to be a lot lighter. Maybe this. Let's change. I mean, this is totally not the purpose, but sorry. Yeah, there you go. It's horrible, but it's just to show you the pseudo class. Whenever you hover over, you're gonna apply this to the element that you are hovering over. So it's only to the one that you are passing the mouse, and that's it. So it gives you some, maybe I should change maybe let's make this better. I'm not gonna change the color, I'm gonna change the font size to be 60. But it changed the other ones. It doesn't matter. Let's leave it the ugly color. It's just to show you that you can do things just when you're performing an action in that specific element. And this is what we call pseudo class. And this is quite nice. You can have like a lot of things like this. And that was it. So just a quick recap. Should we use a navbar A or just A? You should use navbar A. It will be more accurate. Like this, and it will still work. So same thing for this. Same thing. So it's more, you make sure that for some, imagine that you have a link on a different section on your, I don't know, in your description about your city, you have a different link. You're gonna make sure that you're not gonna style them just like you're styling the links from the navigation bar. Or if for some reason you want all your links on your page to look like this. I mean, if it was just removing the text decoration, you could use the A and say, hey, I want to remove the text decoration from any link that I have. But if you want to be more specific and avoid errors like having one element being styled in a way that you're not controlling because of a previous class, you could use navbar A. And that's it. So the important things about CSS is first, how understanding the selector, how to select the HTML element that is going to be styled. If you can use just, let me just use this. I'm gonna leave this here for a second. You can just use the name of the tag. If it's a class, you're gonna use the dot and then the class name. If it's an ID, you're gonna use the hash and the ID name and the properties. And then always after that, you're gonna open the curly braces and you're always gonna add a combination of the property and the values. Those properties, you need to use things that exist. If you want to do something in CSS and you don't know, you can do the same thing that I did. You just Google the action, like the result that you expect. And CSS, for example, change the background color in CSS. And then you're gonna see the name of the property that you need to change. Separate them with a semicolon, with a column, and then you pass the value that you want that property to have, and finish the statement with the semicolon. and that's it. So your task for today is to style your projects. You can also, like I said, you can add things. You can actually write things about your city if you want to tell us about this, or if you want to do about something different. Someone did about a Labrador, a dog, and it was super cute. You can do this as well. You don't need to style the same way I did. If you want to, feel free. Let me save and share this. It's the same link that I shared yesterday because I'm working on the same project, but you can take a look here. So you can use this. I'm going to share the video with you. I also shared, I don't know if you saw this, but on Slack, I shared the really nice resources with you. So if you take a look here, you can find the material for the day one here in this Notion page. Here. So the 3-day code challenge, you have a lot of things. So you have the recordings, you have some resources here, and so on. So take a look. They're gonna do the same thing today. So yes. And post your final result on Slack. If you have any questions, you can also post it on Slack, and we're gonna take a look and ask you with something. So another question, I'm a little confused between navbar and nav by A. Why was the A added? Good question. So this one here, it's the style that I want to add to the links, to the A tags. So basically this is what I want. I want to change the color, the text decoration, and the font size of the links. And before, I was just using the selector using the HTML tag. So apply this to every A tag that you have on my HTML. Then Fiona should ask me if we should write with the navbar A or just the A. And the thing is, if you do dot navbar and A, you're gonna be a bit more specific in your selection. Instead of asking to change the color, the text decoration, and the font size of every A tag that you have, if you write like this, dot navbar and A, you're saying, please change these properties of the A tags that are inside of an element with the class navbar. So this way, just to show you one thing, if for some reason here in the About Me, I create a different A tag, and because it's an A, I need an href. Let's call this a test, right? You can see that this style, the color, the text decoration, and the font size are not being applied here. I still have all the other things. And if for some reason I remove the navbar A, well, now it's white, but it's here. Let me change this to black. You can see that it's here. So the difference is this. If I put the navbar A, I'm saying that I'm only changing the styles of the A tags that are inside of an element with a class navbar. I hope that makes a bit more sense. If you want to style each individual link, example, each link in the navbar change a different color, how would you do this? Could you have a A1, A2, and A3? If you want to style them differently, you need a class for each one of them. So there's no other way. You would, like, if you want to change the first color to this, the other one to purple and whatever, you would give one class to the About Me, about link, and you would style, let's say, dot about link. When you hover, it's color, it's, I don't know, red. It's different. So if I hover over this, it's still the previous one, but this one, about link. Can I do this? No. Because this is overwriting the thingy. I can't do this. Let me delete to see if this is gonna work. Yeah. Yes, so you would need to remove this and have one for each one. This is what you would need to do. And then there's no other way to do this in a more dynamic way. But that's it. I mean, there are certain things that sometimes I don't know, I don't remember by heart, so you can just try and write down. This is a good way of learning CSS as well. Just play around. So does this work? Can I try to do this? What happens if I remove this? What happens if I do this? I love the curiosity, honestly. And this is one of the ways that makes you learn even faster. Like, be curious, change the things. What if I want to do this? How can I do that? This is one way that it's also going to make you, I don't know, work with more properties, learn different things, and so on. And actually, there's another thing that I could explain by your curiosity. There's another thing that I could go into, but this would be a bit more advanced in CSS. I'll leave to another time. But yeah, I mean, this is super cool. More questions? Okay, so quick thing. Tomorrow, we're going to learn about Bootstrap. So if you want to take a look, Bootstrap. Let me share this with you. If you want to read a bit, just so you know, I'm going to explain everything tomorrow, but if you want to take a look, feel free to start looking at it. This is what we're going to learn tomorrow, and that's it. I am looking forward to see how your pages are going to look like, because I think now they're going to be more different. I mean, they can be the same thing as mine. This is not a requirement at all, but I'm going to see more of your personality. Maybe you're going to change the colors or the I don't know how you want to organize things and so on. So that's it. Please post your results on the Slack channel. And again, if you have any problems, use the tech support channel on Slack, and we can help you as soon as we have the time. I hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you tomorrow if there's no other questions. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. If someone raised their hand, you can just ask on the chat or in the Q&A session if it's a question. Now it's time to play. Yes, go for it. Looking forward to it. It's actually super nice. I do have a lot of fun doing this. How do you fix the nav bar so it doesn't move? This is one homework for you. You saw that we used something similar with the image, but there is I think it's position stick. Let me see. Sticky. I'm not gonna give you the solution, okay? But you can do this. But you wanna try to use something, a property that it's position with the value sticky. But you will need to Google a bit and try to implement this in your navbar. So by tomorrow, you can tell me if it works or not, but I think it will. So this is my tip for you. Search for positions, the key. Sticky, this. And then learn how to implement this. Go ahead. More questions? No more questions. So then I'll see you on Slack, or I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day or evening or night, depending on where you are. I hope you had fun. That's good to see. Cool. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.